All right, folks, we're back on online here, and here the lights come on. The red lights, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then they're away. And of course, that bike over the back there, Barry Smith and Tracy Bryan suffering a major crash there. Tracy knows the point of no return and when to bail out because she broke a neck at turn 1 here a couple of years ago, and she is okay. I can tell you that Barry Smith is maybe moderate injuries and has been taken away for checks up at the hospital. They're just doing their best to make sure that he's okay. So Barry Smith is definitely injured, but right now we're hoping it's moderate to minor injuries. But right now it's more about a put the right braces on him and get him off to the right people to check him out, because Barry Smith, a legend, and the bike, the bike is a little bit second-hand, but that's life in the situation of sidecars, and a very tight-knit community, and they're all concerned. But back out on the track now, and this is the New Zealand Grand Prix, and it has been shortened to 10 laps. It was, I think it was a 15-lapper down to 12 laps, but it now is a 10-lap race as we go towards the end of the program for the day. We've still got a few races left. I think next coming up is we've got Motorcycle and Canterbury Sidecars, Budget Motorcycle Spares, Superlight and Pro Twins, Hoogie Racing 125GP, the Suzuki Jix is brought to you by Avon City Motorcycle, and Muzzabike Super Sport 150s. Don't forget, folks, there's a prize giving tonight after the racing. We've also had a lost wallet. If you could bring that up to the commentary box, that would be hugely appreciated. Of course, at the end of the day, if you can just hand it into one of the officials, we will try and endeavour to get it back to the owner. I do have his phone number and details. It's a bit better than trying to get him up here and trying to wait around for his wallet. So please do the honest thing. If you find that wallet, please hand it in. Drew Mayer and Alan Dillon lead the New Zealand Grand Prix, being hunted down by the 111 machine of Peter Goodwin and Kendall Dunlop, and the beautiful grey machine, the MC2XS prepared machine. He owns 3 sidecars. I can't remember which one he's out there. He's got a Windle and an LCR. I know the other one's a bit faster, but he chose this one because they've got a minor problem with that. There's Andy Scrivener and Tina McEwen there in 3rd place as they go into that icon corner with the Lawrence brothers, Chris and Richie from north of Auckland area. Legends in sidecar racing. All these guys are legends in sidecar. Drew Mayer, particularly in the front, a legend in his own lunchtime, but a hard charger. And he can behave like a poorly trained ape, but man, he's got a skill on a motorcycle. As we see Andy Scrivener and Tina McEwen try up in the inside there at Fulton Hogan corner, but Drew Mayer just keeps on driving it round the outside. So the New Zealand Grand Prix podium, 1st, 2nd and 3rd, and of course national points are at stake here at Ruapuna for the first round of the New Zealand Superbike Championships. Next weekend, Timaru. I'll be down there on the Friday for the practice day. I think there might be, usually as a practice day on Wednesday, they're not allowed to use the track on the Thursday. And then the Friday practice day, I'm going to fly straight into Timaru. And we've got 2 action-packed days of motorcycle racing. And then we go to the North Island in March, and the weekends are 2 weekends apart this time. Early March, we go up to Hampton Downs for a massive meeting, and Neil Ritchie's been talking to you about some of the stars, including Steve Parrish, Stavros they call him. I was talking to him and interviewing him at Eastern Creek when I was commentating earlier this year over there, and we're talking about people the likes of Carl Cox supporting Kiwi and Australians, and he said, yeah, he was supported by George Harrison, one of the Beatles, and he gave him a £50,000 cheque at one stage, and that was back in the 70s, and George Harrison, a big fan of motorcycle racing. So yeah, Steve Parrish and Randy Mamela, the man that come out here, the young boy that come out here at 15 years old. Legend says that he's 14, but I have confirmed that he turned 15 about the 27th of November that year. So when he put his entry form when he was 14 years old, but he raced in the Marlborough Series, and the Road Racing World once did an article on him about 4 years ago and said, you know, when did you realise you had it? And he said, when I did the cemetery circuit at Whanganui. So how's good is that? The man that was so many times second in the New Zealand World 500 Grand Prix, which of course now has evolved into the MotoGP class. The man that probably should have won it, but just had luck, and things go on all his time through there, to say that the cemetery circuit in New Zealand was his favourite track and what made him break. And we had Wes Cooley out here, the man that they named nicknamed the blue and white Suzuki GS1000S a few weeks ago. I was picked up at the airport by some people with Wes and his partner Melody, and spent the weekend with him down in Timaru, and Wes was just fascinated. He really loved coming back to New Zealand. He said, where do you want to go to? I said, what was it like at Whanganui? He says, mate, he said, I had no tools, no mechanics, and I had railway lines going across there, so he's a bit out of his depth, but he really loved Timaru, and Suzuki New Zealand provided one of the Gixxer 150s for raffle, and they raised the funds to do that. Let's get back onto the sidecar racing out there, and out in the front it is Pete the Pirate and Kendall Dunlop, followed by Drew Mayer and Alan Denovan. Remember, this is a New Zealand GP title for sidecars, as a trophy and a title for first and second. It's also points. Third place for Richard Lawrence doing the swinging for his brother Chris, and then we go back to Gordon. Oh no, that's Drew Mayer back then, 42, so that must be... Oh, yes, he was early leader, but yeah, that is Drew Mayer. Sorry, folks, but a little bit confused there. And Alan Denovan. And then we got the only international and the only 600 Formula 2 class sort of bike. There is no separate class for Formula 2 in the New Zealand Superbike Championships. They haven't got the numbers to run that. That is Gregory Lambert and Julie Canova, followed by number 19, Gordy McEwen and Jeff Davies, David MacArthur, Tony New, Phil Munro, Stephen McInerney on the 7. As I say that, change of position. Dave MacArthur's gone up into 6th, with Gordy McEwen back down into 7th. And last but not least, the pre-89 bike, the Agip coloured 35 machine, Jared Winter and Kelly Winter. This was the New Zealand Championship winning bike back in 1988, Neil Ritchie.
Yeah, in fact, isn't it interesting, because you see the swinger who tucks down and tries to get the aerodynamics, but there's actually no fairing to get behind because the bike's just too small to have one, Spider. So it's a tiny bike. Now that we talk about short bikes, and ain't there short bikes and short bikes, because that one almost should be called the Stubbies, because it's pretty short and tight, just a bit like a pair of Stubbies used to be, because such a different machine. And when you have a look at that bike and how much respect we all had, the country was just ogling over what those guys did. Probably some of the greatest icons of sidecar racing we had. And now you look at that bike and you see where it fits with the rest of the others, and you think of how much motorcycles are done. I'd go as far as to say, Spider, that I don't think there's been the same advancement of the two-wheel production-based bike as what we've seen compared to sidecars. Now that we've got a proper chassis putting in these race-prepared engines, these are not a superbike, a production-based engine. They're far greater than that. So the technology of what's happened with sidecars has outgrown what the two-wheel family has done. So that's why I think now that these are a world-class show.
Well, we've also seen a change in the New Zealand bikes, whereas they used to be 100% New Zealand built, and they're very complex to build. But as times come on and the bikes get retired overseas for new bikes, we've picked up these LCRs and Windles. And one of the advantages for this is the guys can actually ring up and get new parts for their bikes instead of trying to get them made, and also they can share knowledge between each other, because if you've got an LCR, you can generally go to someone else and discuss what the machine needs in the setup. And a different machine, but very much like an RCR, an LCR, is the RSR 1000 from Andy Scriven. In fact, I think you can change components on there, and Andy buying that bike just a bit late for the New Zealand Championships last year and getting to grips with it now. You'll see him in 3rd place. As I say that, he just went into 2nd place there. In fact, he was passing a lapper there, so he is maintaining 2nd place in the New Zealand Grand Prix for the sidecars 2018. It still is Pete the Pirate and Kendall Dunlop out in the front there. 144.36, 144.65, a 144.79 and a 146.69 for the top 4 sidecars out there, Neil.
Yeah, indeed, and great to see. And well, unfortunately, and very sad that we've seen Barry and Tracy not start this race after their total domination, but we've seen in the past we've had some top teams. We've gone back to, of course, here at this track. Barry's done it before and had a major setback. We also saw that from Marin Lovell as well. He was the dominant player and he's had a major setback here. So it's never over till it's over. And just when you think that these dominant machines, you're going to have the slightest of mistakes and they can cost you big time. And that's exactly what we saw. Unfortunately, of course, with the sidecar, Spider, the example of it is, if you're on a motorcycle, chances are your bike's going to drop down before you hit a fence. But when you're in a sidecar, when it stays on its wheels, such as it does, you just don't go slow down. And when you've got all of that rubber width going over hard, rock hard, sunburnt soil over here, it's just like skidding across an ice pond.
Yeah, definitely. You know, fortunately, the passenger has been in this situation before, Tracy, and she knew with a point of no return. There's no point in both from getting hurt. She wouldn't have saved the bike or anything, so she saved herself, and that's the exact right thing to do. So Tracy, a little shaken up, but no injuries. Apart from, I have to draw on it, the Sidecar Association rules are if the passenger falls off, a tray of beer, and the rider 2 dozen beer. We don't wish that on them, but we do like the beer. But yeah, it's a bit of a best of a bad situation. We're not supposed to mention over public because people start queuing up for the beer, but I can assure you that won't be coming out tonight. We've got to look after our brother, Barry Smith. Take it away for observation, and we hope to see, give you an update. All those people that need to know will be updated. But, that's just some of the situations with sidecar racing. Pete the Pirate and Kendall Dunlop out in the front there. They go in towards the dipper. Andy Scrivener and Tina McEwen there, just 0.1 of a second separating those two lead sidecars as we've got 5 laps to go. We're halfway through the 10-lap race. Look at that. Oh, there's a massive battle going on there. Gordy McEwen, number 19, I think, out of the hairpin there with Tony New doing the swinging for David MacArthur, and 77 is Phil Munro and Stephen McInerney. Stephen.
I guess riders testing your memory cells here. Have we seen Pete the Pirate win a Grand Prix in the past?
No,
he's been on the podium, so I think this will be brand new. I don't think he's been number 1, has he?
He won about 4 years ago a race at Timaru. That's the only points race he's won. He's been there or thereabouts for many, many seasons. But of course, we've had that Carl Cox machine here in the hands of several pilots. It's just a world class, the best Formula 1 in the bike in the world, and piloted by very good people. So Pete the Pirate with Darren Prentice doing the swinging run at the Timaru meeting, so much so they were going to head to the ferry early and they just had to hang around for prize giving. Grumpy old Pete the Pirate wasn't grumpy that day at all, and it's great to see the boys from MC2XS and Wakatani identify that Pete didn't have the time or maybe sometimes the knowledge to prepare 2 bikes, so they take the bikes away down to Wakatani and they keep the bikes, and I don't think he's had a DNF since, you know, since they've taken over. And very complex machines because they're a little bit different to sidecars, just building them, even the wiring looms, trying to fit the wiring looms and all the engineering that goes on in a sidecar and keeping the chassis in good order. And looking for cracks and bits and pieces, and even just the scheduled maintenance of replacing something like the rod ends every so many hours is just intense. A lot of hidden components on a sidecar, and we've seen them blow up over the years, and people are quite critical about that. But what you don't need to understand is they're running a 10-inch tyre with not the factory cush drive that the Solos have. Now, Solos usually have about a 25 to 30 mil on a superbike contact patch on the road, and then when they feed too much power into it, the tyres, the rubber breaks loose, or the front wheel comes in there. But of course, with a 10-inch tyre on the back, nearly 280 mils, and with 2 people on there and the extra weight, it's a hell of a drain on the sidecar. So, and of course there's a lot more preparation and components to have problems, but today we've been pretty good in the mechanical running of the sidecars at Ruapuna, and long may it continue.
Here, and great to see indeed as we see the L go past us. This really nice couple, man and man. What they're doing for motorcycling is just fantastic here. We're talking about letter L, Greg and Julie. They came over to New Zealand, thought they'd take an opportunity for a summer break over here out of the northern winter weather conditions, and they've loved every bit of it, and they've tagged on and all of a sudden said, well, no, it's going to be more than the Suzuki Series. So they're late entries for these 2 rounds here in Timaru. Then they've been invited to go to the Classic in Australia at Phillip Island, so they'll race over there courtesy of Carl Cox Motorsport, but then to return to the UK, they're going to come back to New Zealand to go away again, so they won't be home in the UK till around the 5th or 6th of February. So to have a team with us for 7 weeks like that as it'll be in the end, Spider, and to be the lovely couple that they are, tea and toast when you see them down in the pits in the morning. I've not yet been down to talk to Greg, and he hasn't had a cup of tea in his hand. He's old school. To talk to him about sidecar racing, I could sit down and be mesmerised for hours. He's got an amazing story to tell, and one of the big pluses that he's got in his mind is the fact that how much racing you need to do before the TT. You can't be a cold team just turning up to that event. You've got to do X amount of racing, and to do it in a calendar year, they're going to actually have 3 events up their sleeve, so they'll have already done enough without going to the events, but they'll still want to be at Brands Hatch for the opening round of the BSB and others, but it's just given them a head start to Spider, and they think it'll be a real advantage for them. No substitute for experience.
Yeah, we also had Tony Baker, 71 years old, raced in the Suzuki Series. He builds Baker sidecar chassis for a living with his passenger Shelley Smithies and about 7 other teams, including the legendary Tim Reeves and Mark Wilkes and Eckhart Rossinger. We had Case Ian Wilk, I think, from Holland come out here and was loaned a bike as well. So great to see. And the first time we had 9 Formula 2 sidecars out on the track in New Zealand, so that's good. And a lot of them brought in from overseas, but a few of the other ones out of the woodwork in New Zealand appeared on the track for the Suzuki Series. So, and they've just got more momentum and got keener, and they go back and tell us how good a time they had in in New Zealand from the UK and places like Holland and Europe, and they come back here and talk about it. Let's have a look at that battle between Gordy McEwen, number 19, with Jeff Davies doing the swinging. That's coming out of the dipper into the Rock FM Avon City Ford thing, and they're being closed in and getting closer. Sometimes Tony New doing the swinging for David MacArthur from the Waikato on the 67 bike. I mentioned before, Dave MacArthur lost a lot of weight this year. He was a very big man, but he's lost before the Suzuki Series he lost 27 kilos, and he's feeling better, and his bike's going faster and just enjoying life that little bit more. And it's always tough when people carry weight. It's no fault of their own a lot of the times, and it's good to see them taking that health change. Those bikes are coming out of the Flexer Pass. They've closed in the 19 machine of Gordy McEwen and Jeff Davies and Dave MacArthur and Tony New there. We'll see them going through the Icon quarter. It closes up under brakes. That's what happens. They'll open up a little bit there. Not so much out there, so maybe we're going to see a change of position in the next 2 or 3 corners leading over there. In fact, that change of position's almost coming. They poke their nose up on the inside. There's a bit of dust coming up off the road, off the grass, sorry, as we see the white flag coming out. This is the final lap of the New Zealand Grand Prix for the sidecars. Pete the Pirate and Kendall Dunlop out there, Neil Ritchie. Yeah,
great to see. I tell you what, we're coming down to a great battle as there we go now with the white flag looking back to the 11 of Chris Lawrence. So there we go, Pete and Kendall, as well as being first on the track, they're fastest on the track as we go to 99, then to 11:42. L's just gone past. So that's 5th place with Gregory Lambert and Julie Canepa as we look out for Gordy McEwen, Jeff Davies, still to come, Dave MacArthur and Tony New, back to Phil Munro, Steve McInerney and Jared Winter and Kelly Winter in that lineup as well, with 35, of course, that Dave Beresford Vince Stewart machine, the Argent bike that we do. In fact, it got covered up. It had a paint job and it was completely disguised. You didn't see it like that, but as soon as we see it back in that livery, it's just like bringing it back again. So we can now, you can put it into place and think, well, where were you in the late in the 80s when this machine was on racetracks? It's incredible to see it coming back now. Would that be eligible? Would that be eligible for classic sidecars?
389. They've yet to introduce a cast there, so yeah. And the Pro Helmet stickers. Remember Pro Helmets in Whanganui that copied the AGV and developed their own ones? Pro Helmets in Whanganui used to sponsor us, and the Wellington Motorcycle Centre team. Robert Holden and Bob Toomey and a number of those guys, even the Christchurch guy who was very fast on the TZ 250s. Brent Jones.
Oh, Brent Jones.
There's the checkered flag. There is the checkered flag. Pete the Pirate. Peter Goodwin from Auckland and Kendall Dunlop take out the New Zealand Grand Prix, and of course a very valuable 10 points for the New Zealand Superbike Championships. Hello, we've got no passenger there. No passenger there for 19 high. Oh no, the passenger's there. The passenger's there. Tina, high five, high five. Oh great, I thought he was missing his passenger. They wouldn't score points, but Tina McEwen has stayed on. She had to put a couple of dollars in the swear jar before when she told me how she felt after the first race. She's going to put another $2 or $3 because it'll be double that word, but she has stayed on. I didn't expect her to fall off, but it is very, very tough, and great to see Andy Scriver and Tina McEwen gaining form on that long bike and getting second in the race.